All right, we are live. I am excited to be live here with my sweetie, Gerhardt Roberts. And I am, as always, having issues. There we go with the technology, but that's par for the course around here. Anyway, I'm very excited. We have Veterans Day right around the corner and thought it would be very fun to have a chance. This is on you, honey. He's trying to get himself out of the screen. Not gonna let that happen. Oh, anyway, Veterans Day right around the corner here, and I thought it would be fun to do a salute to our military families. I see Diana's already joined us. Hi from New Jersey. You all know the drill. Ring in, say hi, tell us where you're coming from, and we'll just keep this party going. One thing I would love it if you all want to do, hi Susie Baldwin, is if you have someone serving in the military now, if you served in the military, if you'd like to do a shout out to a family member, whether they're still with us or not, feel free to do some bragging in the comments. And actually, Gerhardt has got a little goodie. He'll send it from Amazon. Only two little strings attached to this little goodie. I want you to promise that you will review this on Amazon if you get it. And it does have to be here in the US. Things have gotten a little complicated with shipping out of the country, but you want to do a show and tell, show us your book cover, darling. And some of you have read this book. Hey, May is here. Hey. And Cindy, a lot of you have read Safe Harbor and thought it was a really good book. This is a World War II historical novel, and I am going to ask him a little bit about that here in a while after we get done reminiscing about his many adventures as a spy. We'll get to that. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about your life growing up, because your mom, this is pretty interesting. Your mom was a war bride. She came over on the last war bride ship, right, from Australia, correct?
That's correct.
And you were along for the ride, right?
I was with her. I was with her in Australia. I don't remember much because I was in the womb.
So she was expecting Gerhardt when she made her way to a brand new country as a military wife. And your dad, I mean, he was a career military guy in the Army, right?
Correct.
And how many kids was I want to do a shout out to military wives, because, the guys are working on the battlefront. The women are on the home front, taking care of everything with the kids. How many kids was your mom toting around from country to country and place to place?
Well, there were four of us. And at one point, let's see, I was 4 years old and I had three younger siblings, younger than I was. So there was a set of twins in there. So she was hauling around basically three toddlers and me.
So four and under, basically, as she is going from base to base and place to place. That's really an accomplishment, and keeping the home fires going. So Nancy says her dad was in the Army, had various ancestors in the military since the American Revolution. All right. Could belong to the DAR. My mom was a member of the DAR. That's kind of cool, Nancy. And Cindy says her dad served in the Navy during World War II. 2 of 3 brothers also served in the Navy. Wow. Susie says 2 uncles and husbands and 4 uncles all served. That's amazing. By the way, hi to our Instagram people who have joined us. We are talking kind of some fun stuff about my darling husband, Gerhardt, his life as a military guy and growing up as what they call the military brat, although he was not a brat, right? Were you a brat?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about that and then a little bit about his book, Safe Harbor, because some of you, it's been a while since I interviewed him, and some of you who like historical novels might want to hear a little bit about what he knows about Germany in World War II and what was going on there with the people and with the Jews. And it's pretty interesting reading. So we're going to talk about that, but I want to talk a little bit more. So when we were married, I was very, very young, but we were living in Germany. And you want to tell everybody what you were doing?
I was working for the Army branch of the NSA. I was a German linguist, and so we tracked our unit, tracked the movements of the East German Army, which was just across the border. I was in Bavaria, and so we had a huge war room with a big map of Europe and Russia, Soviet Union. And we would, the various units would track the movements of the various armies behind the Iron Curtain.
Wow. So that's pretty. And I do remember you guys, sometimes he would actually talk in his sleep in German. Sadly, he never translated for me, but you couldn't tell me anything that was going on or that you were observing, right? I mean, that it really was, it had to be top secret because it's, it's Army intelligence. But that was a very interesting time for us living in Germany, and we really got to know and appreciate the German people. We lived out on what is called the economy. You want to explain what that means for those who don't know?
Well, that's living out amongst the Germans, not on base. And so it was fun living off base because we lived in a house with a family on the second floor, and you got to go to coffee clutches every day and become the darling of the neighborhood.
Yep, kind of was. It was great. Our landlady, he would go off to work and I would go down. I had a German dictionary. It was about this big, seriously. Well, a big German dictionary, and kind of plop at her kitchen table and visit with her, or try to, while she made Mittagessen, which is the midday meal. And then in the afternoons, she would often take me around to visit the different neighborhood ladies. And, they were, it was interesting because the arts and crafts thing was alive even back then. And these ladies, they taught me how to crochet little pretty little edges around handkerchiefs. Nobody uses handkerchiefs anymore. We all use Kleenex, but it was still fun to learn. And of course, then they would teach me how to bake the different German goodies. And it was a very special time. We really had a great time there. Cindy says, husband has 2 of his grandchildren in service now. Whoa. Both have multiple nieces, nephews, and other family members who have served or are serving. Well, God bless them, seriously, and thank you for your service. Everybody out there who might be listening, who is military, we really do appreciate you giving up your lives and time so that we can be safe. So, Susan wants to know, has anybody experienced interruptions in the video? If you are, guys, I'm not sure why that's happening. We seem to be fine here. I'm looking. We have full Wi-Fi where we are. Are there storms out where you are? Suzanne, I think you're coming from the East Coast, right? Are you guys having storms out there? If you are, I apologize for the interruptions. Hopefully, once this is up later, it will be on YouTube. It will be with no interruptions. We can have fingers crossed. But anybody else out there have military family, feel free to post. Okay, yeah, Mary says clear connection where you are. So, or May. So yeah, maybe, Suzanne, maybe you're just experiencing some storms or some strangeness with your internet stuff. But getting back to life growing up. So you grew up in Germany, but your dad's over there. They're rebuilding after the war. And you were playing in ruins where you weren't supposed to be playing, right? Tell us a little bit about that. I think that's kind of scary, actually.
Well, I was 4 or 5 years old when, let's see how, I was probably about 4 years old or so when we went to Germany. And so we lived on the economy. We lived in a big house. We had a big family. And it was a seaport. Bremerhaven is on the North Sea. And seaports were not good places to live during World War II in Germany because they were bombed. And so much of the neighborhood was in ruins. The house we lived in had survived. And so my German playmates and I would, even though we were forbidden to do so, we would crawl around in the ruins. For a 4 or 5 year old, that was adventureland. We didn't understand anything about war. It was kind of a cool place to play.
And of course, that could have collapsed on you at any time. And so the parents are all like, don't go near there. But then your mom, chasing 4 little kids, probably didn't always have time to make sure that you were where you were supposed to be, right? I mean, oh my goodness, that was quite the adventure. So you grew up, and obviously you're being bilingual, right? Because you were speaking German with your little playmates there. And so Germany has always had a place in your heart, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, the original site of the family was from Thuringia, which was for 50 years a German state behind the Iron Curtain. And so when I found that out in like the mid 80s, a cousin had a document which had the name of the village on it that we were from. And so that kind of solidified my tie to Germany because I had spent 10 years there as a child. And so found out, met my cousin over there who actually lived in a house that his side of the family bought from my family in the 1700s. And he was a town historian, so he knew everything about the family. He traced back the family to the 1500s and took me out to what would you call it? A big manor that one of my relatives lived on as a shepherd. And so anyway, that kind of solidified, as I said, my connection to Germany, although it had been there all along. I went to high school in Germany, almost all of grade school, and had a German fiance at one point.
Oh, now how did I know he was going to bring that up?
I still contact her on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
But
no, he doesn't.
But anyway, so that encouraged me also to polish my German skills.
How do you say "give me a kiss" in German?
Gib mir einen Kuss.
Bitte. Now, Nancy wants to know: did your family speak High or Low German?
Okay, so what's become known as High German is actually a standard German today that's taught in the high school. In the schools, it's used on television and in movies. And so basically it kind of developed away from what they call the German lowlands, which is in northern Germany. That's where they spoke what's called a Plattdeutsch, which is a Low German, because it was actually spoken in the lowlands. If you ever go to Germany, you'll find that in the north, it's all flat. And if you look to the west, you have the Netherlands, which is almost, Netherlands means actually the lowlands. And so the people there spoke Low German, and it was closer to English than the people who spoke High German, which is away from the north. And so our family spoke the High German. Now, growing up, we lived in various villages, and each village would have kind of like its own dialect. We lived south of Heidelberg at one point, and in our little village of Waghäusel, you had a dialect that was spoken there. And then if you went to Philipsburg, which was like 4 kilometers away, they had their own little dialect. So even though everybody in school in Germany learns what they call High German today, standard German, you'll find there are 300, 400, 500, 600 German dialects for every little village, just about every little region.
Wow, that's a lot. By the way, I missed this comment earlier from Nancy about her dad. She says when her dad was growing up, his father and uncles would get together and talk to each other in German. And Dad said he himself didn't speak German, but the only words he understood were the German swear words. That's pretty funny. Oh my gosh. German, I think it's a very difficult language to learn. Gerhardt keeps telling me it's just a matter of practice, but it's a challenge.
It's not too bad. I mean, there are 16 words for the, T-H-E.
Yeah, but other than that.
And it's, I teach German at a college, and it is challenging as a second language, but it's closer to English than like French, because English is a Germanic language, so the grammatical structure is German, and so it's not really that tough because there are a lot of common words.
So he says, I don't know why we can't say the and just say the, but you know what? Nobody over there asked me, so that's the way that goes. By the way, Anne says her husband served in the Navy in Vietnam. Brother also served in the Air Force, and currently your nephew I see is serving in the Navy. Very cool. Aboard on an aircraft carrier. Wow, that's very cool. I love hearing these shout outs to everyone for your family who are serving so diligently for us in the military. We do appreciate it. Let's see, Nicole says German, it's not a romance language. So yeah, a little harder. Yeah, I mean, I took Spanish in high school, and I know we still had different genders and stuff, but somehow that was not as hard as learning. But you know, German is a cool language. You know, if you're, I think it's good for everyone to get a taste of a foreign language. And especially if you're going to travel, a different country, even if you can learn a few words in that country, I think, don't you think that people appreciate it when you try and say something,
Right.
in their language? So speaking of traveling, we did travel. This was way back years ago. We had little kids, and I'm not sure why we decided to. Oh yeah, Gerhardt wanted to visit his ancestors. So off we went to Germany, and we wound up we actually wound up behind the Iron Curtain in East Germany. And back then, you had to get permission, right, to come in. And they told us where we could stay, right, where we could go, what we could see. But we saw probably more than they intended. We kind of snuck in, I don't know, we came in some kind of a back door outpost thing when we came in, didn't we? I mean, we were like, there was no problem. We just sailed in, but then when it was time to leave, oh my gosh, it was like an old Cold War movie. It left a lasting impact on me. We're going out here. Oh, first of all, where were we when they took our passports? Was that Dresden?
That was Dresden, yeah.
Oh, so they said, "We will take these, thank you." And I'm like, I'm never going to see my babies again. Anyway, so off we go. We did get them back. So we're time to leave. And as we're leaving, it is like in the movies. There was the big fence or the big wall. And there's the guard, and he's going back and forth. And there's barbed wire. He's got a German Shepherd. And they're sliding mirrors under the cars to see if anyone's trying to escape that way. And it was just really, it was quite an experience. It really was. And I'm happy that that's gone now and the wall has come down and Germany is unified and now East Germany is beautiful. So if you're ever wanting, I think you've all heard me talk before, and Maya's done this with us, those German Christmas market cruises are just the best. We've done
probably 4 or 5.
For sure 3 now, and I would go again, except for the fact that I don't want to get snowed in someplace. But they are just magical. They are so much fun, and so if you're looking for a fun thing to save your pennies for, I would definitely recommend that. By the way, speaking of cruises, Gerhardt and I are going to be doing that Reader's Cruise in 2027. If you look way further down, you'll see the post about that. And I would recommend you check it out. It's going to be very fun. We're going to be going up the East Coast to Canada, and it's going to be really a good time. We've already got some great writers signed on and some readers. It's going to be a good time, and you can hang out with us, right?
That will be the high point, I think. Yeah.
It'll be the high point for me, hanging out with the readers. Yeah, May's like, yes, this will be fun. May did when we did our little Christmas market cruise, we had a good time on that. And then we actually did another cruise with them to Hawaii. And so this will be our 3rd time cruising with them. And with some of you who I haven't had a chance to, I'm looking forward to that. So Jo Marie says, whoops, where'd you go? My husband and I are both half German. So, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Do you speak some German, Jo Marie? I'd be interested to know. So we'll move along here. And if you have questions, feel free to post them. I'll try and find them. Oh, here is Heather. Hi, guys. Thank you much. Yes, for everyone who serves. And she's a Navy girl. Navy. Yeah. So let's circle back to Germany and talk a little bit about your book, Safe Harbor, which we'll draw a name. I'll have him pick a name later. And we'll draw a name, and he'll send you a copy of the book from Amazon. And the only catch is we would love it if you would give it a review. But so tell us a little bit about where this is obviously in World War II, but what's this thing about U-boats? These people in here are U-boats. What was that about?
Well, when you ask anybody, do you know what a U-boat is? They'll, of course, refer to submarines, but there was another type of U-boat. And in fact, in a recent episode of, what's that show, Jeopardy!
Oh, yeah.
The last question they had was, and everybody missed it. Nobody got it right. What do you call people who, during the Nazi regime, dove underneath the surface of everyday life to hide, to hide from whether they were Jews or just whether they were another type of
that weren't welcome.
a person that they didn't like, and those people actually were called U-boats because a lot of them they were Germans, a lot of them were Jews, and because of intermarriage, a lot of Jews looked Aryan, and so they could actually hide in plain sight. And so this book is about, and it was kind of inspired by when we went to East Germany. We first went there in 1984 to visit the village my side of the family is from. And since then, we have gone a few times. But it was kind of inspired by, okay, what would it be like to live in a regime where you were basically under the foot of the tyrant? And that's what East Germany was. You couldn't leave. It was a crime to try to leave. And if you tried to leave East Germany, you were shot for your effort. So I thought then back on the Germany under Nazism. And so what happened was when Hitler took power in 1933, he immediately fired almost every government worker who was Jewish. And so that would include doctors, lawyers, dentists, etc. And then that was just the first step. After that, and 2 years later, the Germans were asking, well, am I next? And they all had to do what was called an Ahnentafel, which was like a family tree to kind of prove that they didn't have Jewish blood. Mm-hmm. And if you had at least one grandparent that was Jewish, you were Jewish enough to be Jewish, even though the Jews don't hold to that definition. And so a lot of the Germans were asking, well, am I Jewish? And so 2 years after Hitler took power in 1935, they came out with the Nuremberg laws of 1935, which defined who a Jew was. And, one Jewish grandparent, you were Jewish. Jewish people were not allowed from that point on to marry other Jewish people. They didn't want any more Jews out there. They also lost their citizenship. And so these steps initially were taken to one, get the wealth of the Jews, and number two, just to get them to leave. Unfortunately, a lot of them thought that, okay, we'll just wait this out. I guess we'll be okay, maybe. Well,
they couldn't believe it was happening.
Yeah,
this is their country.
They thought that the country and the culture that had come up with Beethoven and Haydn and Mozart, who was Austrian but still Germanic, couldn't possibly want to harm us. And so this is about a couple of, the book here, Safe Harbor, is about a couple of young people who decide to stay in Germany and work underground after being reclassified as Jewish. And so they thought they were Lutheran. No, sorry, you're Jewish. And so that meant a lot of people were in jeopardy. We know what ultimately happened. But there were many underground groups like this couple, this young married couple, who were trying to get people out of Germany. And so it's about their struggle while they're trying to get people out. It's about finally he sends her away to live with his parents who have actually said we're leaving Germany, and so he sends her away to live with his parents in Ohio.
Don't tell them everything. They ought to read the book.
I'm not going to tell them everything, but that's where a lot of my German relatives ended up. They were in Cambridge, Ohio. So sends them away, and then he's left there to kind of try to survive the war. And then, anyway, I won't tell you everything, but it's just, it kind of tells a story of what these people went through as being, they were actually U-boats. They were U-boats.
Yes, hiding.
And so in 1943 or so, the Minister of Propaganda for the Nazis, Goebbels, said, we have finally made Berlin Judenrein, that means free of Jews, when in fact there were still a couple thousand Jews
hiding there,
hiding in
helping
Germany,
people try to get out
in Berlin still. So there were there were thousands who went underground and survived. Most of them didn't.
But it's a very sad, it's a dark history in that country. I mean, dark time in that country's history, which is very, very sad. But the good news is there were people even then trying to help, and not just in Germany, in different countries. I know you've probably read all kinds of World War II books about people sacrificing to help save people. And I don't know if any of you remember the old book, The Hiding Place with Corrie ten Boom. They were trying to hide people and keep them safe. And of course, if you go to Amsterdam, you can see, no, that's Anne Frank. You can see the Anne Frank house. I don't know if you can tour where Corrie ten Boom lived,
I think she was in Haarlem, which is a suburb of Amsterdam. I think that's where they were before they were sent to a death camp.
Yeah, which was very, but she survived. Corrie ten Boom actually survived to tell her story, which is just amazing. And I know a lot of you have read, of course, you know, we all loved and read Kristen Hanna's book, The Nightingale, and that's great information there too. This is along that line, only a few more little historical details thrown in. Hers was, of course, in a different setting. But one of the other things I thought was really interesting that a lot of people don't know about is the Night of Broken Glass. That's something that I don't think many of us know about. So what was that about?
Well, that started in I think it's 1938, maybe 1937. There was a young man living in Paris who had gotten out of Germany, and he got word that his parents had been shoved off and thrown out of Germany over the Polish border. And so this he was a young Jewish man who was really German too. He got a gun. This is a true story. He went to, actually it's depicted in this book too, Safe Harbor. He got a gun. He went to the German embassy.
Let's be careful how we word this because we're on Facebook and did something bad.
Yes. So he went to the French embassy in Paris, and he.
And some bad things happened.
Well, anyway, he did something that the Germans didn't appreciate. And so because of this, one of the German diplomats did not survive. But the Germans waited around for a couple of days, and then they were kind of thinking, what can we do in retaliation? Well, they decided then that they would institute a pogrom against Jews in Germany. And so during the Night of Broken Glass, which is, I think, November 3rd or 4th or something, 1938, I think, all across Germany, Jewish people were killed. They were beaten up.
They were unalived.
Right. And many of the Jewish synagogues were burned to the ground. And it was actually a unified effort to, again, intimidate the Jews. After this happened, in the newspapers, it said that this was a spontaneous reaction to losing the German diplomat in Paris. Well, it was pretty well planned because it happened all over Germany without the internet spreading the word at about the same time.
Pretty interesting. So, and again, very sad, but I think it's important that we have books like this because it makes us aware of what has happened in the past. And you know the saying about those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. Isn't that the saying goes? So I think I think historical novels are very important for us to read. And Mia is asking how much of the storyline is fictional and how much from growing up and hearing stories. Well, all the facts in here are facts you researched. How many books did you read researching that? I thought it was about 50.
I read about 50 books in the area. I was once, when I taught at Chapman University, this also plays a part. I was asked because I taught German there to teach a course on the Holocaust, and so I did that. And in the process, I probably read, probably 10 or 15 books, which the students also read. But then I kind of got this idea reading about what happened to the Jews of putting them in the book. But so all of the things that happened in the book were actually happened. The historical things actually happened in real life. The story of this young couple is a story that happened. It's they're fictitious characters, but these are events that actually happened to real people in Germany, being told you better leave Germany or else. After the night of broken glass, a lot of people got the idea. And then people who sold their businesses, sold their houses, got pennies for their houses. And so they left with nothing. And so this was happened over and over again. Now, these days, when we went back to Germany a while back, a lot of the houses that belonged to Jews that the Germans now occupy, they had plaques in front of them listing who the former owners were, the Jewish owners, and listing dates on the dates on which they were killed in a death camp. So the Germans, they did do some reparations. They did do this plaque thing, and Jews are welcome now. But we have to remember that 6 million Jews died, and also during World War II, 55 million people died because of that war. 25 million were Russians, and so what Hitler did was inexcusable, and sadly the German people, they were on board with it, a lot of them.
Or just plain fearful.
Yeah.
You see things happening even now sometimes in our country, and people are, it makes them fearful, so I think that's important to remember too. Not everybody in Germany was horrible. A lot of people
Yeah.
were, but some were just plain scared and hiding and hoping they wouldn't be next. And
Well, if you disagreed with the regime, like in a lot of countries
Yeah.
today,
they were in trouble.
Yeah. you would not survive.
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. So a hard time in the history, but important to read about. And I don't know about you all, but when I think about this kind of thing, I think, gosh, if something was going on in this country, would I see the writing on the wall enough to leave? And then, we know lots of things are going on right now, and but I think, gosh, will I be able to leave my family and just uproot and go? And the people who did leave, that probably took a lot of courage. Also, I read if none of you remember the Fonz, Henry Winkler, he wrote his biography, and it was very interesting because his dad was one of the ones, they were Jewish, and his dad got out of Germany, and I forget, he managed to find some reason to get them out, and they were the only ones in their family who survived. So some people did say, yeah, we think it's time to leave now. But anyway, hi Sonia, thanks for joining us. I see some of you have managed to join us here a little bit late. Hopefully you'll be able to go back and watch this from the beginning. I know Facebook isn't keeping reels for very long now, but it will still be up on my YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch it then. It's really been fun. So I want to really quickly circle back with talking with my sweetie here. So what inspired you to write this actual book? Did you say, gosh, this bad thing happened, there are things people don't know, I'd love to put this in a book?
Well, it was, I wrote it because I didn't read a book, but I read a book. It was called Stella. And I think it was originally in English, and it was in German, so I read it. I'll read anything German, even pick up newspapers off the street to check out the German in Germany. But it was about a young woman who was half Jewish, and her father, I think, was Jewish. Her mother was Aryan, and she looked like a normal, blonde-haired, blue-eyed German. And it's a true story about her being forced, for the sake of her family, to work for the Nazis undercover to expose Jews who were in hiding. And so eventually, she had a daughter. I don't think in the end her family did not survive. And after the war, she was just like
I'm sure that was bad.
She was ostracized because she worked for the Nazis. And so the seed of that was from this book. The fact that people were being forced to, and that happened in East Germany too, forced to denounce or watch their neighbors. And of course, they were rewarded if they turned them in. And so that kind of inspired that too, the fact that this young woman went through so much. Her family eventually did not survive. Her daughter disowned her for what she did. And the reason she did it was she was trying to get her parents saved. in the end, the Nazis betrayed her. The book is Stella. And her parents did not survive the war. They were shipped off.
Wait, oh, I'm sorry.
And so anyway, that was kind of one of the things I said, I need to write about these people called U-boats who were hiding in plain sight. Really, they were actually hiding in plain sight because a lot of them looked like Germans, trying to survive the war and trying to help others get out of Germany.
And the same thing happened. If you are ever in Washington, D.C., and get a chance to go to, wasn't it called the Spy Museum? Remember when we went to that? Oh, it was it had a whole history of espionage, and it marched all the way from way back in history, all the way through more modern times. But we went through a section where they were talking about the Cold War in the 60s in Germany, and you were talking about watching people. There was one story I told Gerhardt, I want you to write this story. Oh my gosh. So this one woman, she gets turned into the Stasi and gets imprisoned, and her poor husband, is standing by her. I feel so sorry this happened to my wife. Well, then years later, when was it that they finally opened the record so you could see who ratted you out? When was that?
That was shortly after East Germany became part of Germany proper, 1989, 1990 or so. You could then look at your Stasi records to see who turned you in.
Who turned you in?
And when we went to Germany and they took our passports in Dresden, I'm thinking probably that we were then put into the Stasi files. And so, about 1990, you could see who turned you in.
Anyway, so Our Lady goes to look to see who turned her in. Anybody want to make a guess who it might have been, who turned her in? I'm going to look and see if we get any comments to see if anybody can guess who turned this lady into the Stasi. I gave you a big hint, so an answer should pop up very quickly. I'm looking. I don't see anything. I'll give you one more second. While I'm waiting for somebody to answer, we'll do a quick commercial break. Guys, for all of you who have ordered The Man Next Door, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm getting lots of good reviews. If you haven't had a chance to get it, I hope you will. If you haven't had a chance to review it, I hope it will. That's just very important. And then for Christmas, la 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 la, look at this cute cover. Have I got it so you can see my little space? I'm going to see my little space alien ship. We have a little being who's kind of taken the grand tour of the universe and wants to check out Earth and see what Christmas is all about. And he's going to have to fall in love with an Earth girl. Anyway, it's just a fun little read. So that's available only on Amazon.
What's it called?
Oh, you didn't tell the title. Huh? Starry-Eyed for Christmas. Isn't that a cute? I think that cover's so cute. But anyway, so now back to our scheduled programming. Let's see. Did anybody guess who it was? Did Heather guess? No, she's talking about. Oh yeah, husband. Congratulations to Heather. She guessed it right. Yeah, it was the husband who turned this woman in to the Stasi. And I don't remember. I don't think they told a reason. So we can speculate. He probably had somebody else that he wanted to be spending time with, and it was a good way to get rid of his wife. So off she goes to prison. But anyway, so if you ever get a chance to tour that museum, it's absolutely fascinating. And if you get a chance to read Gerhardt's book, I hope you will. Like I said, he's going to pick a name tonight from the comments. So thank you so much for commenting. For those of you, again, if you didn't get to post, hopefully maybe after the fact you can. If you want to give a shout out to someone in your family who's in the military, I think Vicki posted earlier, she herself is a vet. And just feel free to give a shout out and thank you for all of you who are serving, and we appreciate it so much. And I just want to wish you a wonderful week here. I hope you have a great time. We are going to go take some time off now and take on to some a little bit more pleasant subjects here. I hope you all have a great week, and we will be talking to you soon. First of all, say bye to our Instagram. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. So bye to all our Insta people. And again, thank you to our Facebook gang for hanging out again. There'll be more talks in the future with different authors, so be sure to stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.